Oklahoma's Republican leaders promised that low taxes, low wages, light regulation, and generous business incentives would create prosperity. After 15 years, the results tell a different story. Oklahoma ranks 39th overall for business, 42nd for workforce readiness, 48th in education, and 41st in quality of life. This is not just a bad ranking. It is evidence that the state's economic development model has failed to deliver. The sales pitch was simple. Make Oklahoma cheaper for employers, and prosperity would follow. That meant lower taxes, lower labor costs, fewer obligations, and more incentives. But a state can become inexpensive without becoming competitive. Companies may notice low costs, but high-value employers also need skilled workers, good schools, reliable infrastructure, healthcare, and communities where people want to live. There is one category where Oklahoma does well. CNBC ranks Oklahoma third for cost of doing business. That is the number state leaders like to emphasize. But the same study ranks Oklahoma only 39th overall. Low cost is a legitimate advantage, but it is not proof that the broader strategy is working. The question is not whether Oklahoma is cheap. The question is whether cheap has produced prosperity. The workforce ranking deserves special attention. It is not simply about whether Oklahomans are willing to work. It measures whether employers can find, train, and attract the educated and skilled workers they need. Oklahoma ranks 42nd for workforce readiness today and 48th for the education system preparing tomorrow's workers. The state is falling behind at both ends of the talent pipeline. Oklahoma competes primarily on cost. But the state's attracting high-value industries compete by offering something more valuable. Skilled workers, innovation, infrastructure, reliable energy, strong schools, and quality of life. Low costs may get Oklahoma onto a company's list. They do not guarantee that a company will bring high-paying jobs here or that talented workers will stay. CNBC is not the only measure showing that Oklahoma's economic model has failed to build the conditions families and businesses need. Oklahoma ranks 44th in child well-being, 49th in health system performance, and life expectancy is only 73.8 years. Those outcomes affect whether companies can recruit skilled workers, whether families are willing to move here, and whether young people choose to stay. Oklahoma's health and family rankings are not separate from economic development. They help determine whether economic development can succeed. The economic numbers do not rescue the current model. Oklahoma's inflation-adjusted GDP grew about 1.5% in 2025, compared with 2.1% nationally. That means Oklahoma's growth rate was roughly 28% slower than the country's. Median household income also trails the national level by more than $15,000. Oklahoma is growing some, but it is not catching up. It is falling further behind. A low-cost economy can become a trap. Low wages weaken consumer demand, limit savings, increase reliance on public assistance, and make it harder for employers to recruit skilled workers. Then the cycle feeds itself. Low public investment produces a weaker workforce. A weaker workforce attracts more lower-wage jobs. Then low wages are used as proof that Oklahoma is still cheap enough to sell. Nearly 6 out of 10 Oklahoma births are paid for by SoonerCare. That is not an indictment of Oklahoma mothers or of the program, which provides essential care. It is evidence that the state's economic development model has not produced broad prosperity for working families. After 15 years of emphasizing low taxes, low business costs, and generous incentives, too many jobs still pay too little or provide health coverage families cannot afford. Oklahoma created a low-cost environment for employers, but it did not create enough economic security for the people doing the work. Oklahoma often declares success at the beginning of a project. There is an announcement, a ribbon cutting, a promised investment total, and a projected number of jobs. But real economic development must be judged later. Did the jobs actually arrive? Were they permanent? Did they pay enough to raise family incomes? Did the company support local schools, suppliers, infrastructure, and communities? Economic activity happening in Oklahoma is not always the same as economic development benefiting Oklahoma. A company can build here, receive tax advantages, use Oklahoma electricity and water, import much of its equipment, create relatively few permanent jobs, and send profits out of state. The proper question is not how big the announcement sounded. It is how much lasting value remains in Oklahoma after the ribbon is cut. The shadow budget shows where reform can begin. Oklahoma protects money through reduced tax rates, refundable credits, exemptions, and set-asides before many unmet public needs are considered. These programs are not all the same, and they should not be treated as identical. But they reveal a common habit: tax preferences and politically favored programs are treated as investments, while schools, healthcare, infrastructure, and workforce development are treated as costs. The next economic development model should begin with one principle: public support must produce public value. Part 9 will put a specific proposal on the table. One independent review to determine which programs work, which should be reformed, and which should end. Oklahoma's future will not be secured by becoming the cheapest place for employers. It will be secured by becoming a high-value state where productive businesses can succeed, talented people want to live, and working families share in the prosperity they help create.